This is a conversation with Chef Ajay Chopra. He's a renowned chef, former judge of MasterChef India, founder of Zion Hospitality, where he has consulted multiple successful restaurants across the world, and the author of Big Daddy Chef. In this conversation, we discuss his journey falling in love with the culinary arts, what it takes to become a successful chef, and then he gives me a how to run your restaurant 101 masterclass. Every single thing you need to know to start and run a restaurant successfully. This is no time. If you like what you see, then do hit subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, rate 5 stars in Apple Podcasts. This project takes a lot of my time, money, and effort. It's my full-time job now. So if you'd like to see it continue, please consider making a donation on Patreon. You can buy Super Thanks on YouTube. You can join as a member on YouTube. If not through monetary channels, do consider sharing these episodes, leaving your likes and comments. All forms of engagement, they really go a long way. For other forms of love and support, you can follow this channel on Instagram or Twitter, or follow me personally. And now, it's no time.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Chef Charlie Trotter ने एक बार कहा था, the art of cooking is amongst the most intimate things that we can do for each other. जब आप 9 साल के थे, एक दिन आपकी मम्मी को बुखार आया और वो हर दिन चाय पीती थी. उस दिन उन्होंने अपने लिए चाय नहीं बनाई, तो आपको अंदर से दिल से इच्छा हुई कि आज मैं मम्मी के लिए चाय बनाऊंगा. और आपने वो चाय बनाई, मम्मी की आंखों में आंसू आ गए और आपने हमेशा कहा है कि उस दिन आपने एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ सीखी, खाना लोगों को दिल से कनेक्ट करता है. So I want to start here. What was it about cooking that appealed to you so strongly when you were young? उन दिनों में becoming a chef wasn't even a serious profession, wasn't even considered as a profession. तो खाना बनाते समय आपको क्या महसूस होता था कि आपने डिसाइड कर लिया कि this is what I want to do with my life, even though the journey ahead is very difficult?
So first of all, Shalaj, I am so delighted that कुछ लोग रिसर्च करते हैं बिफोर अ पॉडकास्ट, बट आई थिंक आपने रिसर्च नहीं करी, आपने मुझे दिल से जानने की कोशिश करी है. सो आई एम रियली डिलाइटेड टू बी इन योर पॉडकास्ट. एंड इफ यू स्टार्टेड विद दिस क्वेश्चन विच इज़ प्रॉब्ली द मोस्ट टचिंग क्वेश्चन इन माई लाइफ, आई वांट टू ऑनेस्टली से दैट जब मैं 9 साल का था तो मुझे इस इमोशन के बारे में कोई इल्म नहीं था. Right? I started to process this emotion much later because certain times when you think, when you sit down and you realize that, उस ड्यूरेशन में, उस दौरान ये हुआ था एंड वो क्यों हुआ था, शायद उस टाइम पे आपके पास मैच्योरिटी नहीं थी सोचने की, लेकिन आज है. एंड जब मेरे से बार बार ये सवाल पूछा गया हर एक पॉडकास्ट में, हर एक इंटरव्यू में, चाहे वो मैगजीन का इंटरव्यू, चाहे वो टीवी का इंटरव्यू, हाउ डिड यू बिकम अ शेफ, तो उस सवाल ने मुझे सोचने पे मजबूर कर दिया कि हाँ यार, ये शुरुआत हुई कहाँ से थी. एंड देन सडनली इट वाज लाइक अ मोमेंट वेयर आई थॉट दैट वो मोमेंट था जब मैंने शायद पहली बार अपने आप कुछ बनाया था. अब आपके सामने यहाँ पे आपने लेगो ब्रिक्स रखे हुए हैं. मेरा बच्चा जो है अक्षत, ही इज़ टुडे ही इज़ 12 years old, बट आई थिंक फ्रॉम द एज ऑफ 4 or 5 ही इज़ बिन इन इट. एंड जब भी वो लेगो का कोई भी चीज़ बनाता है, especially making rockets and aircrafts, he loves doing that. He is so delighted that he created something. And any profession where you create something gives you that sense of achievement, gives you that sense of, wow, I've done something, whether it's a 4-year-old boy or a 40-year-old chef. I think the similarities can be drawn. And I think that was the emotion that happened that day, where I created something. Now, on top of that, when I processed that information a little more, मैंने देखा कि यार, एक चाय का ग्लास किसी के आंखों में आंसू कैसे डाल सकता है, राइट? देन यू कीप सीइंग अ लॉट ऑफ दीज एड्स जहाँ पे मम्मी के हाथ का बना हुआ अचार पराठे पे डला और मैं उन यादों में खो गया. सो या तो एक मुस्कुराहट आती है चेहरे पे, या फिर रोना आ जाता है क्योंकि शायद माँ ना हो. ऐसा ही एक और इंस्टेंस हुआ था व्हेन आई वाज शूटिंग अनदर प्रोग्राम फॉर जी, एंड आई वाज मेकिंग गुड़ की रोटी जो मेरी नानी बनाया करती थी. एंड माई नानी, आई कैन रिमेंबर नाउ, अपार्ट फ्रॉम माई वाइफ ऑब्वियसली, एंड my mother and mother-in-law and everybody who's given me so much love. But I remember this so vividly that my nani used to just pour out love. And her pouring out of love was in the means of, in Punjabi, they say, ki banawa putter. It's almost always like, मैं क्या बनाऊँ आपके लिए? What can I make for you? It is that bhav of service, that bhav of love that you kind of, want to showcase. And every single vacation, from, I think, when I was from class 2nd till the class 12th, we've always gone to Nani's house. And gud ki roti was something that was like, सब खाना वाना हो गया है. फिर उसके बाद खेलने चले गए हैं. फिर उसके बाद रात को 11-12 बजे भूख लग रही है. फिर से अब बच्चे हैं तो नानी विल नॉट से कि सो जाओ. नानी विल से रुक पुत्र मैं बनाती हूँ. एंड शी यूज्ड टू मेक दिस अमेजिंग गुड़ की रोटी, और फ्रेश आटा गूंदेंगी और फ्रेशली बनाएंगी. और जब मैं वो रोटी बना रहा था ना, तो वो नानी जब वो बना लेती थी रोटी तो अपनी उंगलियों से उसको ऐसे दबाती थी रोटी को, और उसके ऊपर सफ़ेद बटर आता था. तो जब मैं वो दबा रहा था ना, I don't know what happened to me, and I started to cry. Because that whole moment just took me back 30 years where Nani was actually doing this at 12 o'clock in the night or maybe later. And that was purely because of love. And I think food, love is such a relation that sometimes you can explain, sometimes you can't.
उस दिन जब आपने मम्मी के लिए चाय बनाई, उस दिन के बाद आप उनकी हेल्प करने लगे थे किचन में, और आपने हमेशा कहा है कि लाइफ में ABC तो मम्मी सिखाती है. चाहे आप कुछ भी कर ले, साइंस पढ़ ले, इंजीनियरिंग पढ़ ले. मैंने भी UK से रोबोटिक्स पढ़ी है, न्यूयॉर्क में डेटा साइंस पढ़ा है, पर मुझे ABC तो लाइफ में मम्मी ने ही सिखाई है. आपने उनसे क्या सीखा? किचन की क्या ABC आपने मम्मी से सीखी? व्हाट आर सम लेसन्स यू लर्न बैक देन जो आज भी आपको हेल्प करती है इन दिस बिग प्रोफेशनल एनवायरनमेंट्स दैट यू आर वर्किंग इन?
So, very rightly said, because हमारे कल्चर में ऐसा है कि मम्मियाँ ही किचन में होती हैं. बहुत कम घर होते हैं जहाँ पे डैड्स किचन में होते हैं. बट माई हाउस वाज द सेम. सो माई मॉम, आई हैव ऑलवेज सीन हर वर्किंग सो हार्ड for all of us, because she was a teacher, and her day started anywhere between 5 to 5:30 a.m. हम लोग 3 भाई, मम्मी पापा, यानी कि 5, तीनों को स्कूल जाना है, मम्मी पापा को काम पे जाना है, एंड ऑल द बर्डन इज़ ऑन मम्मी. सो 5 लोगों का ब्रेकफास्ट, 5 का लंच, एंड देन क्योंकि मम्मी स्कूल से आने के बाद ट्यूशन पढ़ाती थी, उनके पास टाइम नहीं होता था कि वो शाम को खाना बनाएं, तो वो शाम का खाना भी बना देती थी. ओनली रोटी या चावल जो है वो रात में बनता था. सो लिटरली फ्रॉम 5:30 in the morning till 7 in the morning, 1.5 hours to churn out everything required planning. Now I see it as a chef. Requires meticulous hard work, and requires that love, because you're not just cooking and throwing something in the food box, but you're actually doing it because my family is going to eat. So what I learned from her is that whatever the situation might be, and I think mummy got this from Nani, whatever situation might be, cooking has to be with love. You cannot bring in your emotion of your present to say that नहीं आज मेरा मन नहीं कर रहा तो मैं नहीं बनाऊंगा. Cannot. It's a commitment. So that's one thing. The other thing is hard work, because every day at 5:30, continuously for, I don't know, 300 days in a year is not easy. And ऐसा भी नहीं होता था कि संडे को मम्मी को छुट्टी मिलती थी. संडे को कपड़े हैं, ये है, वो है. I've come up from a very humble background, and I remember my dad used to, always sit down on Sunday evenings at 6 p.m. to iron all the clothes of the week. हमारी school dresses, ये वो, तो सब पूरा काम मतलब. And then they taught us as well. That's one thing that has been with me, that I just told you that I took a 4 a.m. flight, which means that I did not sleep the night. I came here, I slept for an hour and a half, and I then started at 10:30 in the morning UAE time, and went on till about 12 UAE time, which means almost 24 or 30 hours of no sleeping, right? Now that doesn't just come. That comes where you've decided that no, you got to do something, you've committed to do something, and you got to do it. So I think those are the things that I've learned from my mom, and I still use it. And one more thing, yes, mummy was very particular about कौन सी चीज़ कहाँ पे. So the mom's kitchen tells you order, that you cannot move इलायची from this cupboard to that cupboard. You cannot move sugar from this box to this box, कि आज यहाँ पे तो कल वहाँ पे. So that pattern of setting up is actually, if you look deep into it, it's the 5S principle of the Japanese, right? Which they use in automobile industries and robotics and I don't know where all. So, if it is not organized, it's not accomplished. And I think that I learned from my mom.
ये कमिटमेंट, ये माइंडसेट, ये अप्रोच मुझे और एक्सप्लोर करना है. जब आप IHM में पढ़ाई शुरू की आपने, तो थर्ड ईयर्स ने एक बहुत यूनिक टाइप की रैगिंग करी. उनने सारे फर्स्ट ईयर के बच्चों को पकड़ा, उनको एक कमरे में डाला, बोला ये 450 चिकन छीलने हैं, और आपको लगा 150 बच्चे हैं तो हर बच्चे को 3 चिकन छीलने पड़ेंगे.
My God, I'm seriously surprised, man. Where did you get all this information from?
नहीं, ये बस इसके बाद और कोई रिसर्च नहीं है. बस फर्स्ट 3 क्वेश्चंस में ही रिसर्च है. तो आपको लगा 15-20 मिनट में सब चिकन छील लेंगे, तो आप शुरू हो गए और स्लोली आपने नोटिस किया कि रूम में शोर कम होता जा रहा है. और जब आपने ऊपर मुड़ के देखा तो आपने देखा कि सिर्फ 4 बच्चे और खड़े थे, बाकी सब भाग गए थे. और आज वो 4 सब शेफ हैं. 5. इस शो पे शेफ विकास खन्ना भी आए थे और उन्होंने ये कहा था, कुछ लोग को धक्का लगेगा ये बात सुनकर, बट द ग्रेटेस्ट शेफ्स वर नेवर द ग्रेटेस्ट टैलेंट्स इन द किचन, they were the greatest attitudes in the kitchen.
Yes, I believe it totally.
तो एक सक्सेसफुल शेफ बनने के लिए आपको कितना टैलेंट चाहिए, कितना राइट एटीट्यूड चाहिए और कितना लक चाहिए? व्हाट्स द वेटेज?
सो इस क्वेश्चन में बहुत कुछ छुपा हुआ है. पहले उस छुपे हुए चीज़ को थोड़ा सा खुलासा कर देते हैं. दैट peeling chickens is the most odd job that one could think of, right? A lot of people were like, I can't do it. A lot of people were like, why am I doing this? But a lot of us, which means the 5 of us, realized that this is it, man. This is it. We've been given a responsibility. We have to do it. We have to do it well. Come on, let's peel chickens. Now, mathematically, I was supposed to peel 5 chickens. But after 15 chickens, I realized that everybody else chickened out. So I wasn't upset about the fact that they chickened out. I was in fact like, it's okay, I'll do it. So it didn't really come to me as not wanting to do it. So that brings me that in the last 30 years of my studying hotel management to now being a consultant of variety of restaurants across the world. I have come up with a 3-word strategy, and that is what I follow, and that is what I look for in people, and that is ask, ASK, and that is in particular order. It cannot be moved around. Okay, where A is attitude, and when we say attitude, it's a very easy term used these days. You need a lot of passion. There's no degree of passion you can measure, right? It's a very loosely used word. I love you. How much? Very loosely used words. So I'm going to come to that also. But attitude for me is A means always ready. For me, a person with good attitude means that I'm not going to crib about how much work was given to me. I won't crib about that, okay, I'm finishing at 12 in the night, then how can I take a 5 a.m. flight? I need a 9 a.m. flight. I need business class. No, I don't bother about these things. I am about the fact that I've got to get something done and I will get it done. It's as simple as that. It's my job. I've got committed to it. So for me, I follow it myself and I ask this from everyone who comes to work with me. So if you don't have a great attitude, which means that a few months down the line, I will figure this out. Everybody who's working with you figure this out, that this guy chickens out. This guy is not the guy who stands on the ground and does his work because God is watching him. And it's not because his boss is watching him. A lot of us work because our boss is watching, and we work only when they're watching, right? Apart from other times, they just chicken out. So for me, that A becomes the most important part of the journey. S is skill, because our journey, our industry is all about skill. So you have to continuously keep learning new skills. If I am like you, who's a data scientist, I cannot be withdrawn to say that this is what I learned in college and I'm going to be okay with it. It's like CA, right? You have to continuously learn. Data scientists have to continuously learn because things are continuously changing, and so is culinary because we are continuously changing and new skills are coming up.
आपके दोस्त ने कहा था जिंदगी की गाड़ी से L का वो साइन नहीं निकालना चाहिए. Learner's permit should be there. Gordon Ramsay ने भी कहा था, the day I stop learning, I die.
Yeah. So I totally believe that we are in a continuous process of learning, and skill is one thing that we have to continuously keep gathering. And the more skill we have, the more we can stand out and stand apart. That's the only thing which creates the differentiator between good chef and a great chef, right? So you got to decide for yourself, are you going to be okay with good chef, okay chef, great chef? What do you want to become? So skill is one thing that helps you to stand apart. Now, the third part is knowledge. Now, where are you from originally, Shalaj?
Agra.
Agra, wow.
जी sir.
मैं भी आगरा से हूँ. Papa was born in Pakistan, Lahore. But when he was 4 years old, the family moved to Agra. And he, from his childhood till his growing up, was in Agra, Dayalbagh. Then my mother is from Faridabad. So dad and mom got married in Faridabad. They lived in Faridabad. Anyway, so basically Faridabad, Sonipat, Alwar, and then मेरी जर्नी जो शुरू हो गई उसके बाद तो मैं घूमता ही रह गया. सो आई डोंट नो वेयर आई एम फ्रॉम, आई जस्ट से आई एम फ्रॉम इंडिया. बट आई आस्क यू दिस क्वेश्चन बिकॉज आप आगरा से हैं
जी,
और आगरा में राम आश्रय की राम आश्रय ना नहीं वो पराठे वाला कौन?
राम बाबू के पराठे.
राम बाबू के पराठे
सर क्या जगह
है ना, तले हुए पराठे. वो पराठों की बात की जाए, इट्स प्योर स्किल राइट टू गेट दैट, क्योंकि ऐसा कोई पराठा पूरे इंडिया में नहीं मिलता. लोग लाइन लगाए खाते हैं, या फिर आपकी अच्छी बेड़मी पूड़ी हो राइट. तो स्किल अच्छी है, बट वो बंदा शेफ नहीं है. क्यों नहीं है? नॉलेज नहीं है. नॉलेज इज एवर एक्सप्लोरेटरी एंड एवर ग्रोइंग. So the difference between skill and knowledge is that this guy knows how to make that perfect paratha. But a chef in someone can know this skill. But if he don't has the knowledge that हो क्या रहा है उस पराठे में, वो क्रिस्प क्यों हो रहा है, वो ब्राउन क्यों हो रहा है, उसमें बटर ब्राउन क्यों हो रहा है, the science behind it, that brings knowledge to the entire thing, right? And knowledge, अमिताभ बच्चन जी कहते हैं कौन बनेगा करोड़पति, ये ज्ञान ही आपको आपका हक दिलाता है. तो ज्ञान is knowledge, skill is not ज्ञान. Skill is skill. Skill is something that you learn as a hands-on thing. But gyan about that thing is going to make you take you places. The moment I say that I am doing this because this has got this science behind it, people are going to start thinking that he's not just a chef, he's not just a cook, he's not just talking food to me, because then people start looking down upon you that you're the cook hai yaar, ye bawarchi hai. That's what used to happen 20-30 years back. But what changed it? What changed it is that the art of cooking also was coupled with the science of cooking. People realize that भाई ये अपने बस की बात नहीं है, ये जो कर रहे हैं ये आर्ट भी है, ये साइंस भी है, मतलब ये is as good as an engineer. And today IITians want to leave their engineering and come and open food businesses, right? So that's where the shift has happened. So ASK is attitude, skill and knowledge. So I will just kind of compile this, that if somebody has a great attitude but does not work upon their skill, he's not going to become great. If he's got a great attitude, he continuously works upon the skill, but never wants to read up and never wants to, explore more knowledge, he's going to stay where they are, right? And you then can't become good to great. I kind of sometimes live by that book, Good to Great, because it's that one simple thing that keeps changing your life, and that's knowledge. I don't know if you've seen that video about 112 degrees Fahrenheit. Basically, water steams or boils at 100 degrees, but it turns into steam at 102. Sorry, it's not 112. It's 102 degrees centigrade. In just 2 degrees, that steam can power a locomotive engine. Can boiling water do? No. So which means that little extra effort, Usain Bolt's record was some 8.2, I think. Yeah, whatever it was. The number 2 was 8.5. 0.3 seconds is world champion or no world champion, right? So that extra effort changes your degree of how people look at you. And I think that's more important.
आपने बहुत सारी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ें कही. I want to explore all of them. On the A aspect, आप हमेशा कहते हैं जब लोग आपके पास आके पूछते हैं how do you become a successful chef, आप पहले पूछते हैं टॉयलेट साफ कर लोगे, प्याज छील लोगे. You have a TED talk as well कि your foundations begin one onion at a time. If you can't enjoy the process and the foundations, आप नहीं कर सकते उसमें.
This is a very important point. And I have a growing son. One is the Lego guy, one is the smart guy. He's 15 and he keeps showing me books like, work less, earn more. Or effort is not everything.
Work smart, not hard.
Yeah. So a lot of those books are coming these days. Now, there's a point of view which he has, which is right. I don't disagree to that. But at the same point of time, you use the word foundation. You're building something and it cannot stand because it doesn't have a foundation. right? But every building that has a foundation will stand strong. So today's generation, because everything is insta, everything is today, everything is now, 1 year later, things will change. They don't value foundation as much as the looks of the building. So if they have to learn this when they become 40, it's going to be their journey. Everybody has had a journey. I've had a journey. So I leave that with that story that, okay, fine, if you're not going to understand it now, have a journey. Let life teach you. But if you have an example standing in front of you who's also wanting to learn your ways, because I am not the guy who's only that, old pattern thought that, if it was good for me, it is good for you. No, I don't think like that. Today in my team, there are 30% people who are between 20 and 25. Because I want to gain from them. I want to gain from their perspective. Today, I cannot run my Instagram profile without them because they think what I don't think. They do what I don't do. So I have to also learn from them. And we talked about learning just now. So for that perspective that you just brought out, that today's generation wants everything quick, no foundation. I think it's very important. If you can learn from my mistakes, I'm humble enough to tell you my mistakes. I'm not going to hide them. Learn from it. Don't have a journey. Learn faster. Become better. Become greater in lesser time.
Sir, मुझे आपसे और ज्ञान प्राप्त करना है. You said you are among the first generation of chefs that started documenting this and really breaking down the science behind cooking and running a restaurant. ऐसा समझिए आप मास्टर शेफ है, मुझे आपसे एक मास्टर क्लास चाहिए आज. मैं एक रेस्टोरेंट खोलना चाहता हूँ पर मुझे कोई आइडिया नहीं what to do, where to start, what are the foundations. I've never opened a restaurant before. तो आज अगले आधे घंटे के लिए मैं आपसे सारा ज्ञान लेना चाहता हूँ. I'm going to ask you all the questions, ABC of starting your own restaurant. And you're the founder of Zion Hospitality. You've consulted so many successful restaurants across the world. I hope we can create a how to run your restaurant 101 masterclass for dummies by the end of this. कैसा लगता है आपको?
बहुत बढ़िया.
चलो, मैं एक रेस्टोरेंट खोलना चाहता हूँ और पहला ऑब्स्टिकल जो मेरे सामने, पहला प्रॉब्लम जो मुझे सॉल्व करना है, what is the central theme identity of the restaurant? How will I differentiate myself? ये प्रॉब्लम कैसे सॉल्व करूँगा मैं?
So let's understand from a case study. Okay, हम आज बैठे हैं अबू धाबी के एक रेस्टोरेंट में जिसका नाम है लिनोर. नाउ दिस रेस्टोरेंट, जो जगह आप देख रहे हैं आज, आपने पूरी जगह देखी, दिस नेवर एग्जिस्टेड. What you see today, it wasn't how it was. And when I came here, I had two options. Which means that I could look at the place as is and build something as is. Or I live in Bombay, where place is definitely an issue. And how to rethink, reimagine is something, I don't know if it's there in your research, because अगर मैं शेफ नहीं होता तो आर्किटेक्ट होता. आर्किटेक्चर पढ़ी नहीं है पर इंटरेस्ट बहुत था. दीवारों के पीछे घुसने में, क्या है इसके पीछे, ये कैसे होगा, वो कैसे होगा.
What's the thought behind कि स्पेस में क्या,
right?
Like what is the layout of places? Yeah.
So for example, the porch upstairs had no access. It was just a porch made. I'm wondering what kind of architecture is this? Porch बना दिया है, बालकनी बना दी है, but access ही नहीं है.
बस लुक के लिए.
तो हमने एक सीढ़ी लगा दी कि जब मौसम अच्छा होगा तो लोग शीशा पीने कहाँ बैठेंगे? वहाँ बैठेंगे. मैच कहाँ देखेंगे? वहाँ देखेंगे. अगर मेरे को एंजॉय करना है एक लॉन्ग ड्रिंक, कहाँ करेंगे? वहाँ करेंगे. Then the central kitchen, was a thought, because this is such a huge area for a restaurant which is 85-90 seats in Sadia, Thailand. When we have a beautiful hotel next door, why would people want to come to a restaurant like this, right? So this area belongs to the Centriges compound, and there was an area which was available. Now we have to work something out here. That was the brief. So now if I started to look at this place, and I said, okay, this restaurant only is not going to become profitable. I'll have to do something from here that will also service my other businesses, and that is going to give me the money. So we built a central kitchen. अब central kitchen के लिए, if you probably after this podcast I'll take you inside and I'll show you. There are corners and there are places that are not functional for a kitchen. A kitchen is always a square box or a rectangle box because we need things visible to us, right? So I started to become my old me. इस दीवार के पीछे क्या है? Actually कुछ नहीं है. तोड़ दो.
ज़रूरी है architect बनना to be a good successful chef or to run a restaurant as well?
No, not at all.
But this understanding of spaces,
it just helps you.
It helps you.
It helps you. And again, it's a part of my learning. It's something that I gave myself, that whenever I was working in hotels, 5-star deluxe hotels, my job was to just run a kitchen. But I was never running a kitchen. I was very nosy. So I would always go to my chef who would be making those designs and plans for the next restaurant. Chef, ये क्या है? ये क्यों कर रहे हो? ऐसा क्यों है? ये क्यों डाला? ऐसे क्यों डाला? There was a time when I could not read a CAD design. I could not. For me, it was just like a beautiful, fancy drawing. But, I can't understand anything. But then I gave myself to learning that and understanding that, sense of space. Oh, this is showing this much here, but in life, it will be actually this much. So you have to start imagining that. All that learning you bring now as a consultant to a place which is just 4 walls. And now, how do you want to give character, life, business, money, people, atmosphere, ambience, everything together, right? So you have to understand that today restaurants are not just about a good looking fancy place with some fancy food. It has to have a concept behind it. Everything without a concept dies, because a concept decides the life of it purely because everybody who's thought about a concept has thought foundation, has thought building, has thought the inside being beautiful. But more than that, what the entire experience is going to be. So if you have to start with your first question, how do you differentiate yourself? Number one thing is that you have to understand, where are you sitting in the market space? So, for example, you have to understand that there are 5 or 6 kinds of, eateries or restaurants that are existing in UAE, for example. Let's start from the high end. So there are restaurants in the 5-star deluxe hotels, which are primarily, the consumption pattern is that the hotel guests use it, or 20 to 30% outside guests use it. If that restaurant becomes very famous on social media, then, outsiders come more. Then the next category of restaurants is the A kind of restaurants, which are outside, let's say, for example, DIFC in Dubai, or, other places which are restaurant hubs. And they've really created a good name for themselves, and they've got good restaurant food, space, everything. The number 3 are the cafes that are very, very famous, right? Because they're not restaurants, they're cafes. But today cafes are also serving great food. So because it's lesser investment, smaller spaces than those kind of restaurants. And then there are, the cheaper eateries, which are the everyday eateries, like the Saravana Bhavans or whatever. And then there's another cadre of the bakalas, right? Because even those make a lot of money. We think very lowly of them, but they make tons of money. So first of all, with your kind of investment that is sitting in your bank, or the vision that you have, that you're going to raise that kind of money, you have to first decide which category do you sit in. Once you've understood that, okay, this is the category I want to work with, and this requires a 4 million dirham investment. Number one, do I have 5 million dirhams? If I don't have, where will I get it from? Do I have investors backing me up? Do I have a term sheet signed for the next 5 years with them that they will not back out after 2 years? All those basic groundwork, framework you have to do to understand कि अच्छा पैसा है, अब हम कुछ कर सकते हैं.
Is it necessary कि जितना ज़्यादा पैसा है, you go up in the level? जैसे अगर 5 million है, which is good enough for all 5, I have to open the top like a luxury dining restaurant, or I could also open a coffee shop, for example.
See, the thing is that if I have an 80-seater restaurant and I'm serving a meal worth 200 dirhams, I'm making 16,000 a day, right? Instead of that, I have a 180-seater restaurant, but I'm serving a meal at 50 dirhams a day. I still will make 16,000, right? So the end result is कि, what is it that you want to open? You want to open a restaurant that will be a legacy restaurant, a restaurant that will give you probably a Michelin star or a Gomelo, stamping, or you get a sense of pride with that. Or you want to work with the Michelin chef, and you want to create a concept which is wow, and it's going to become a world name. If that is not your thought, and you're the first time entrepreneur in restauranting, my suggestion would be take baby steps. Start small. Understand the business first. So maybe open a 50-seater eatery, right? Understand the mechanics of it. But usme bhi there is a problem, because when you are opening a smaller restaurant, you're taking smaller risks. Then suddenly if you want to jump to the bigger one, those are bigger risks. 4 million versus 1 million, right? Everyday spend of 1,000 or 2,000 dirham versus 10,000 dirhams, right? Do you have the appetite? Some people do, some people don't, right? But if your appetite is backed with vision and money, then you will do it. But if your appetite is just appetite, then it's a dream or like khali pulao. So everything is also a science that is, have to be plugged in like this. So first of all, you decide, that's why I said number one thing is that out of those category of restaurant, you decide which restaurant you land in, right? Each of them is a food business, but each of them is a different food business. You can open 100 of this, but you can only open 2 of this, right? Now that's the difference. So if I want to make money, and I'm sharing this 101, if I want to make money, I'll never open that.
अच्छा.
Yeah, I'll open the smaller ones.
जबकि this is counterintuitive. लोगों को लगता है कि luxury dining में ज़्यादा पैसे होंगे rather than the small.
पैसे ज़्यादा होते हैं, top line, but bottom line उतनी कम होती है ना. End of the day, what comes to your bank is more important. So there is return on investment, and then there are other terms. So ROI.
ROE, return on ego.
ये भी आपने कहीं सुना ही होगा. So return on ego is very, debatable concept because a lot of people say no, मेरे को तो ये करना है. देखो एक 5-star होटल की ज़रूरत है कि 5 रेस्टोरेंट होने चाहिए because you are getting clientele from all across the world, and if you know that your market is driven by Japanese, then you have to have a Japanese restaurant. If your major clientele is going to be Italian, then you have to have an Italian restaurant. It's never ever decided in a 5-star hotel that let's have this restaurant. मन कर रहा है चलो ये करते हैं नहीं. Everything is backed by data, and you're a data scientist yourself. So accumulated data of the city, you're going to be spending millions and billions of dirhams to build that hotel. Why that restaurant must be there? So before Buddha Bar came to St. Regis here, they took about 8 months to make the decision. It was a great location overlooking the beach, but then they said Sadi Thailand, will it be the place which will call people? And they did the research, and the research came out positive, and then they opened. And I think in the first month, they did a banging sale open. So I think researched, backed by data, backed by good concept, backed by good food, backed by probably a named chef, backed by a professional team running it, because it's not just to open a restaurant, but also to run it, who knows marketing. And one of the major mistakes that people do is that if I'm a restaurant owner, I think I know everything. Then I want to become a chef also, I want to become the marketeer also, and I want to become XYZ also. So I learned this thing from a pharmaceutical industry owner. At the age of 64, he did his MBA. And he said that if I had to grow and increase, I had to hire more MBAs. So if I have to hire an MBA, I need to know who an MBA is. So then I did his MBA. And that's learning, because, you are sometimes pushed to learn things in your life at an age where you are expecting it the least, where it becomes the need of the hour. So a restaurant owner should be a guy who is visionary, most importantly. And the vision has to be backed with money. Both go hand in hand. Just by having an empty vision will not help. A lot of entrepreneurs think that vision है, पैसा तो मैं ले आऊँगा. वो पैसा जैसे आता है ना, वैसे चला भी जाता है. So you have to have the vision and the backing money, and then you need to have a professional team.
पैसा हम एक्सप्लोर करेंगे. वी पार्क द क्वेश्चन अबाउट इकोनॉमिक्स असाइड. आपने ऑल योर आंसर्स हैव सो मच एक्सपीरियंस एंड इनसाइट इनटू इट कि आपने 10 दरवाजे खोल दिए. मैं एक एक करके सब एक्सप्लोर करना चाहता हूँ. आपने मोटिवेशन की बात की एंड सेंस ऑफ प्राइड. मैं आपको 3 मोटिवेशंस दूंगा. दिस इज द मोस्ट कॉमन मोटिवेशन पीपल से कि हमें रेस्टोरेंट क्यों खोलना है, और फिर आप मुझे बताना हाउ मेनी ऑफ दीज कैन एक्चुअली वर्क, बी सक्सेसफुल मोटिवेशंस फॉर रनिंग अ रेस्टोरेंट. एक मोटिवेशन कॉमन है, मुझे पैसे बनाने हैं. कैन दैट वर्क व्हेन यू ओपन अ रेस्टोरेंट? द सेकंड मोटिवेशन इज आई एम पैशनेट अबाउट कुकिंग, serving people. Can that be a successful motivation? And तीसरा जो आपने बोला sense of pride and ROE, return on ego. इस शो पे शेफ चिंतन पांड्या भी आए थे और उन्होंने कहा था कि when you open a restaurant, you get a sense of status in a community or a society. कि अगर आप इंजीनियर है तो ठीक है, बट अगर आपका एक रेस्टोरेंट है तो आपकी कम्युनिटी में, आपकी सोसाइटी में एक सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ रिस्पेक्ट एंड स्टेटस आपको मिलता है कि इनका तो रेस्टोरेंट है. सो दैट इज द ROE एस्पेक्ट, राइट? So there are 3 motivations I've given you: making money, passionate about food, and I guess the status or respect that you get from starting a restaurant. इन तीनों में से what can be successful motivations for running a restaurant?
See, चिंतन और मेरा बैकग्राउंड बहुत सिमिलर है एंड वी कम फ्रॉम humble backgrounds. We come from places where our dads didn't have loads of money, and our dads probably told us that buddy, I can only support you till here, and from here on there you go. And there's no shame in that, because I think because of our dads pushing us into that zone, we were able to think and create or carve out something for ourselves, because we had no option. So if I have to look at your question in a broad sense of achievement, because that's what it's driving it to, I think the fact that a restaurant, when you're opening, if before opening your thought process is that मेरे को पैसे कमाने हैं, you will fail. But if your motivation is to create a niche which nobody has created, then you will make money, and money will be a byproduct. I'll give you an example of a very humble shop in Amritsar, which I learned something from. And I'll tell you another 5-star hotel story after that. So we went to this place called Kana Sweets in Amritsar, and apparently वहाँ की पूड़ी और छोले जो हैं बड़े फेमस हैं, वहाँ लाइन लगती है लोगों की.
बेसन लड्डू भी वहाँ का फेमस.
बेसन लड्डू भी बहुत फेमस है. So we went to Kana Sweets, and वहाँ पे suppose this is the room of the Kana Sweets. So basic सा रूम है, स्टील की टेबलें हैं, कुछ नहीं ज़्यादा फैंसी नहीं है. 10 जगह लिखा हुआ है, एक प्लेट में 2 पूड़ी मिलेंगी. यार बड़ा ही ऑड सा 10 बार लिखा हुआ है. ओके ठीक है, चलो इतना सुना है. तो वी स्टार्टेड. प्लेट आई, प्लेट में छोले थे, चटनी थी, प्याज था. फिर आता है गरम गरम पूड़ी, तो उसने एक रखा. मैंने उसको कहा खाओ, आई कांट रियली इमोट हियर, खाओ. तो एक पूड़ी खाई. जैसे लास्ट, मतलब मैं पंजाबी हूँ तो मैं ग्राई बोलता हूँ, जैसे लास्ट ग्राई खत्म हुई, दूसरी पूड़ी आ गई
जी.
एंड दैट वॉज $1 million thought process that I don't know how many people catch. But the very fact is that उसका singular motive was not to make money, was to make a feeling and an emotion go back to them, कि जो भी जहाँ से भी आए ना, उसको ऐसा खाना खिलाओ कि वो बार बार आए.
बिल्कुल गरम प्लेट में आनी चाहिए.
और वो पूड़ी का मजा ही तब होता है कि जब आप उंगली डालो, उधर से धुआं निकले, और फिर वो
उधर केसर दा ढाबा भी है, अगर आपको पता है. सेम जब मैं उधर गया था तो वो आपके सामने रोटी लाके ऐसे करते हो, पूरा तेल जंप होता है.
तो उनके लिए क्या है ना, कि उनके लिए प्रोडक्ट इज प्राइमल, पैसा इज बाई प्रोडक्ट. चिंतन ने जो क्रिएट किया है ना यूएस में, a lot of chefs would not have, I'm saying this, would not have the courage to do this, is because अरे गोरे लोग कैसे खाएंगे इतना स्पाइसी. उसने अपने ब्रांड का नाम ही राउडी लिखा,
unapologetic,
and he started to use this word very very bindas तरीके से, because he one Mumbaiya, bindas goes with him. And I know him from the time, because he's from the same college as I am. He's a year junior to me from OCLD, and I've seen him grow. And he's been like the bindas guy, right? So I've also been like bindas guy, but he's been more bindas than me. And when I saw this, I said, चिंतन के अलावा ना ये कर नहीं सकता कोई. Because he made a statement in the streets of New York, and everybody started to notice him. Today, Sema, which is one of their collaborative effort, is doing so well. He's doing Michelin star after Michelin star, James Beard this and James Beard that. And Chintan's become such a famous chef now in New York because he believed in something. So belief is more important than money. So money becomes a byproduct if your focus and your belief is on a very high level. आज नहीं होगा successful, कल हो जाएगा, but होएगा. So that is one excerpt out of your ask. The other question is about return of ego and return of investment. Everybody is driven by different motive. What we are looking at is that if anybody is opening that restaurant, so a Yawacha or a Hakkasan cannot open in Dera or Al-Barsha. It has to open in one of the islands or one of the greatest locations, and because it has to make a statement. Now it will make money. It will also make money because it's a proven product, right? So if you kind of thread it out, for them ROE is the bigger point. ROI is a smaller point. So if ROE is there, then they want the luxury segment to look at it. If Louis Vuitton starts to make bags which are only costing 1,000 dirhams, they'll lose their market. The very fact is that the cost of making the bag might be 1,000 dirhams, but they'll sell it at 10,000. But that's who they are, right? So that's the difference in even restaurants.
आपने कॉन्सेप्ट की बात की थी एंड हाउ इम्पॉर्टेंट दैट इज. दिस इज़ अ लॉन्ग स्टैंडिंग डिबेट कि रेस्टोरेंट में बाकी चीज़ें कितना मायने रखती थी, एम्बियंस, लुक एंड फील. आपने शेफ़ चिंतन की बात की, वो शो पे आए थे. शेफ़ विजय कुमार आए थे सेमा से, जो न्यूयॉर्क में है, और उन दोनों ने ये कहा था कि द फूड शुड स्पीक फॉर इटसेल्फ, द फूड एंड सर्विस. शेफ़ चिंतन ने कहा था कि अगर आपके रेस्टोरेंट में कोई बढ़िया शैंडिलियर है तो इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि कस्टमर आते रहेंगे क्योंकि आपने एक बढ़िया शैंडिलियर डाला है. जब शेफ़ विकास आए थे तो उन्होंने कहा था कि रेस्टोरेंट बड़ा नहीं होना चाहिए, रेस्टोरेंट गहरा होना चाहिए. उसमें गहराई होनी चाहिए, सोच की, इंटेग्रिटी की, थॉट की, वैल्यूज़ की. हर चीज़ मायने रखता है कि आपका दरवाज़ा कैसा है, उस पर कैसे फूल लगे हैं, खाना किस में सर्व हो रहा है, बैकग्राउंड में म्यूज़िक क्या है, क्या स्मेल आपको आ रही है, वेटिंग एरिया कैसे बनाया है. व्हाट डू यू थिंक, शुड द फूड एंड सर्विस स्पीक फॉर इटसेल्फ, or do you think everything adds up, all of these small things also contribute to the experience?
Let's look at this, right? Does this make any sense? But the same thing can be made something beautiful. Because there'll be thought, there'll be skill, there'll be time, there'll be a vision, and there'll be an intent to build something great. Otherwise, time pass करने के लिए लेगो बनाएगा जो भी, वो देखेगा, और जो इंटेंट से बनाएगा कि मेरे को डिज्नीलैंड का एक वो बनाना है, तो आपने इंटेंट से बनाया, देखो आपका कितना सुंदर लग रहा है, मतलब व्हाटएवर इट इज, जो भी है. मैं टाइम पास के लिए बना रहा था, अब ये पता नहीं क्या है, बट ये तो डिज्नीलैंड का किसी बिल्डिंग का टॉप जरूर लग रहा है. सो टू जस्ट सिंप्लीफाई योर क्वेश्चन दैट यू नो अगेन, हाउ मच money do you have to open a restaurant is not the first intent. The intent has to be very clear. Like Chintan's intent was कि मेरे को US में ना डंका बजाना है. अब वो डंका, now Rowdy Rooster is not a very big fancy restaurant. You know, they are small eateries. But डंका बजाया उन्होंने. मतलब कि यार चिकन खाओ तो ऐसा खाओ. इसके मतलब क्या खाया तुमने अभी तक. But what Vikas is doing is something with depth, and I agree to Vikas more than Chintan right now in this particular context, is because if you have to build a brand is never built by one or two elements. A brand is built by an emotion. And we as human beings, our emotions are led by all our five senses. So if you go to a restaurant which your eyes have enjoyed, your nose has enjoyed, your ears have enjoyed, your touch and feel has enjoyed, and then finally your tongue has enjoyed, it's going to be an unforgettable experience. And you're going to talk about it to many more people than you will go and talk about to, you know, places where you say, yaar, bahut badhiya khana hai. And in 7 days, we have 250 emotions. You know, out of these 250 emotions, 50 are or 40 are food-related emotions. So sometimes our cravings are, you know, just basic dosa. Sometimes our cravings are, chal yaar, let's have, you know, great food at Hakkasan. Now our pockets and our emotions are directly proportional. So you got to decide, and that's why Vikas is saying this कि ना गहरा होना चाहिए. Because गहरा restaurant वो होगा जो इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में सोचेगा. I want people to come not just one day in a month. I want people to come at least 3 or 4 times a month. I want them to come with families. That's part of your vision statement. Who are you serving? Who are you going to be creating?
कोई
this
special
for?
occasion है,
Right.
कोई
So
मेहमान
if you
visit
talk
कर रहा
about
है,
Lenoir, for example, right? Now this space in Sadet Island, I knew it's you know, completely cut out. Not many people are going to be here. But what I saw was 5,000 residents around us. You know, we saw a daily intent of people being here. So we serve healthy meals to people who are, you know, health conscious. We serve unhealthy food as well. We have a kids area because we realize that moms are going to be working or finding place to, you know, do some time pass, so they can park their kids in the kids area. And whilst they are there, their eyes are there, they can still come in and you know, do their thing. Post-COVID, this place was a hit because people didn't want to be at home and they wanted to come out and coffee le li, khana aa gaya, ye aa gaya, wo aa gaya. You know, it's a place where there are multiple slots. Then there is alcohol. Then there is shisha. Then there is upstairs, downstairs, sideways. You know, there are so many spots that you can enjoy. And this place then started to become a hub for a lot of these 5,000 people because then they said, ki kyun jana hai mere ko kahin aur? But most importantly, it was driven by price. You know, we have our Saturday mimosa brunch at 169 dirhams. And that's free pour. right? How many places do I have a free pour at 169? Now, I can easily take it up to 200 and people will still come. But I'm not doing it because I want families to come and keep coming. You know, if I'm making money in 169, I will be honest to myself and to my customer that, hey, listen, let's do it. When it starts, when prices suddenly go up and I am not able to, then I have to pass on that and I'm still running a business. But the whole emotion is that who is it for? It's for families, it's for the working couples, it's for the young parents, it's for those, people who love to enjoy variety and during the time of the week.
चलो फिर इकोनॉमिक्स के बारे में बात करते हैं. You brought it up last time as well. You spoke about how to price different dishes. Problem ये है कि सबको रेस्टोरेंट खोलना है, but this is actually a mystery कि what are the different costs, how much revenue can you expect, and you're doing a great job in really shedding some light into the business aspect of it. तो मुझे वो explore करना है आपके साथ. मैं रेस्टोरेंट खोलने वाला हूँ. What are the different costs that I can expect? The fixed costs, the capital expenditure, operating costs, your revenue expenditure. फिर कितना margin expect कर सकते हैं? What are different revenue streams? Just break down the economics of it.
Sure. So if we look at, again, we'll have to look at the category of restaurants. Some category of restaurants will not even have that kind of expense that we're going to talk about, maybe a restaurant in the order of Hakkasan, for example, right? Now, basics. Let's first attempt basics, okay? So your first basic is your rental, because that's your biggest expense. Then from that, your biggest expense is your staffing, right? Because in UAE, staffing is not cheap, you have to get visas, you got to get accommodations, transport, everything is a cost. Insurances, everything is a cost. So
as an estimate, कितना लगता है सब rent में, staff में?
Okay, in India, a restaurant should not go above 18 to 20% of your total total sales. So if you're making $1 million, then 200,000 से ज़्यादा rent नहीं हो सकता. Otherwise, you'll be making losses. But are you aware of Mumbai market?
Not that much,
but Mumbai BKC is the most prime area.
Yeah.
And today is the most expensive area in terms of, so there people are even serving 30 to 35% rentals. But
BKC में rent करने कितना rent आता होगा?
20 lakh, 2 million rupees. Yeah. To run a restaurant of 3,000 square feet with a 20 lakh rupee rental, you need a sale of 1 CR.
Easy.
Yeah. So we're breaking down. So that's your rental. Then your staffing in UAE goes up to 23 to 24%. In India, we still have cheaper labor than here and not so many things. So it goes to about 15 to 18%.
तो 40 to 45% तो इधर ही हो गया. Rent and salaries.
मेन खर्चा आपका हुआ है. Rent and salaries. उसके अलावा फिर आपका इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का एक्सपेंस आएगा, आपका वाटर का एक्सपेंस आएगा, यूटिलिटीज़ का आएगा. इन UAE you have more expense because you have to have a hygiene manager either from outside or inside because you have to have regular hygiene audits. Health and hygiene पे काफ़ी खर्चा होता है because simple things like yesterday I was standing in the kitchen at Lenore and मैंने टिश्यू मांगा, वो बंदा ऐसे निकाल रहा है, I said, मैं ये लेके नहाने जाऊँ? And he said, Chef, why? I said, do you guys even think that how much that one roll of tissue costs? It might be just tissue for you. But for me, it costs 18 dirhams for that roll. And in a day, you're going through 6 rolls like that. And in a month, if I just reduce 1 roll a day, that's 30 rolls less. That's 18 into 3, that much dirhams saved. Money saved is money earned. Every single cost has to be looked at. So which means that starting from my rental, if my positioning of the restaurant has to be XYZ, I have to see that do I need a rental of 80,000, 90,000 or $1 million or 100,000 a month? Or can I look at a place which will still give me decent money if my rental is 20,000, 25,000? Right? I'm talking about UAE now. So that's where you have to decide which category of restaurants are you opening, right? Now, again, category of the restaurants, your salaries will change. Because, a South Indian cook versus a Michelin star chef. A Michelin star chef's salary is anywhere between 35,000 to 40,000 dirhams a month, right? Probably more, with more perks, right? But they're making about 800,000 to $1 million every month. right? So it's proportional. Everything is proportional, and your business has to be proportional.
आपका रेंट भी ज़्यादा होगा, आप कोई रेस्टोरेंट मतलब बड़े होटल में या कहीं और है.
Right. So अगर आप उस बैलेंस को मिटिगेट कर देते हो, then you're a successful businessman, right? That's why I said vision and money. Now you know that अगर मुझे पता है कि ये ना आज नहीं चलेगा, 6 महीने बाद this place is going to rock. So as a shallow businessman, I will look at the losses that I'm incurring in 6 months. But as a visionary businessman, I am saying, okay, I'm going to lose $1 million. And I've already figured that out in my vision statement. Because I'm going to make $5 million in the next 1 year. You know, if that is your vision and that's how strongly you believe about the product and the concept, you will do it. So it's a balancing game really. So your rentals, your staff, your utilities, then comes majorly your food cost and your beverage cost. So ideally, your food cost should be 30% is what they say, thumb rule. But I never run my kitchen on 30%. Because as I said, every cost can be relooked at. So when I joined Westin Mumbai Garden City as the executive chef, the food cost was 31%. According to the Gora executive chefs who was on a salary of, at that time in India, about $60,000 a year. No, more. I think he was making about $11,000 a month. Yeah, $11,000 a month. Right. So his hygiene rating was 65%. His food cost was 31%. And the food quality was bad. I come in and I see, and otherwise it's not rocket science. It's common sense. So you start looking at things and you look at people's faces when they're picking up the food. Everybody is not very delighted. You know, food is one thing that you put one spoon, one morsel in your mouth and your face expressions tell you everything. So for me, I don't sometimes go and ask every guest, how was the food? I sometimes stand at the dishwasher and see if the plates are coming out wiped clean. Or I just stand there and look at people's faces. You know, you get a whole lot of feedback then and there. And sometimes, for me, my standards are कि कोई guest ना हाथ नहीं उठाएगा. Excuse me, नहीं करेगा. That's my standard of my restaurant. अगर किया तो manager तेरी खैर नहीं है. Because you're not doing your job properly. So it's all trickling in. You've not trained your people. You're not attentive to your
आपको anticipate करके पहले पहुंच जाना है उधर.
And those are the places people love to go. Because everybody who's spending 100 dirhams on a meal, for example, wants to be valued. That's the first and basic foundational thing. If I'm spending money, I need to be valued. You know, otherwise I can take this piece of business and give it to somebody else who values me. Why should I come to you? You give him good food, not as good as maybe the other person. So your food and your experience both are counting, right? So coming back to food cost, it's about 30%, and your beverage cost what? 20%. So आप बोलेगा, बचा क्या?
तो already 100 तो ही गया थे.
But that's where the game lies. The margins are thin. But the margins are thin, and a net profit of EBITDA, I'm talking about. If a restaurant which is on very high expenses can give you a 11 to 12% EBITDA, is good EBITDA, right? Because you're not going to make money in day one, you're going to make money over a period of time. But ROE and ROI दोनों साथ साथ चल रही हैं. But on a place like Sarvana Bhavan, your EBITDA should be anywhere between 20 to 25%. Yeah, because every cost is lower. There is no tissue changing every time. There is no high-fi waiters and managers who are at a very high salary. You are also not sitting at a very high rental. So again, money saved is money earned, right? Every bit of experience costs money. So if you're giving that much experience, you have to charge that much, right? You just can't be charging that much and then not giving. So it's all, balancing act. बहुत सारी जगहों पे आप जाते हो इतना महंगा होता है, but you don't feel worth it. But if you're not going to feel worth it, are you going to go again? You're not. Again, balancing act. So if you're charging that much, you give that much. If you're giving that much, you charge that much. It's both hand in hand. It cannot be like, okay, I'll keep giving. Then you become a Danveer Karan. Then you're not in the business of making money. So you have to be in the fact that no, you give great food, great service at a great price, which is in the market acceptable. If everybody is serving a prosciutto di Parma platter, for example, at wrong example, in UAE. Let's say Chole Bhature, for example, right? The best place is serving it at 25 dirhams, and you're serving it at 5 dirhams. You're stupid. That's what I can say. Or you're running a bakala in the format of a restaurant. So you have to understand where you are, who you're serving, how much you're serving, at what cost you're serving, and then finally how much you're making home. So if these figures are not in the ranges of, mota of what we've spoken about, over a period of, any restaurant doesn't start making money on day one. If by the 6th month you're still putting in money, which means you're not reached a break even, then there is definite problems in the restaurant that you got to.
तो 6 महीने आपका
6 महीने जाएगा.
critical period है.
And that money you have to keep in your bank. Because you can't tell your staff, ना मैं सैलरी नहीं दूंगा, पैसा आएगा तो दूंगा.
तो अगर 1 करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट है, कितना कंटिजेंसी होना चाहिए?
1 करोड़
है. तो अगर 2 करोड़ है तो फिर 1 करोड़ रखना पड़ेगा.
Why I'm saying this is because when you drive a car, you don't drive a car to know that मेरा आज 500 का फाइन होने वाला है. बट फाइन हो गया, अब 500 ही नहीं है तो क्या करूँगा, राइट? सो देर आर थिंग्स विच हैपन विच यू डोंट एक्सपेक्ट इन अ रेस्टोरेंट. देर इज अ सडन रेड दैट हैपन्स. और आज बारिश हो गई, मेरा वीकेंड का सारा सामान लेके आया था मैं, खराब हो गया. दोज एग्जिजेंसीज यू हैव टू कीप इन माइंड. देयर इज अ एलिमेंट ऑफ surplus or element of wastage that will come in or will kick in somehow. So in the longer run, that's why all our P&L statements are never looked at monthly. We look at monthly, we divide them daily, our targets are looked at monthly, our targets are given daily. But when I'm looking at it as a business, I'm looking at an yearly performance of the business, because I'm not running this restaurant for every day. If I'm doing it every day, then I'm not a visionary. I have to look at it कि मैंने इस साल में इतना बनाया है, इस साल में इतना लॉस किया है, या इस साल में इतना प्रॉफिट किया है. नेक्स्ट ईयर मेरा बेसिस, अगेन डेटा मैनेजमेंट, आई हैव नेवर डन डेटा साइंस, बट नेक्स्ट ईयर इस डेटा के मुताबिक में, भाई जनवरी वॉज अ बैड मंथ, सो इफ यू वांट टू गिव लीव्स टू पीपल, गिव इट इन जनवरी. दैट्स हाउ यू डेटा. सो दैट्स हाउ यू, आई होप सम इकोनॉमिक्स.
A lot of economics. एक चीज, let's zoom in on a few things. आपने ingredients की बात की. How important is it where you source your ingredients from? Because काफ़ी restaurants में you notice वो कहते हैं हाँ ये यहाँ से import हुआ है, प्याज यहाँ से आई है. How important is it? Is it more important कि हाँ ठीक है आप decent जगह से source करें ingredients, but then what you do with it, how you prepare it, or do you think these things also matter whether you're getting the finest ingredients or importing it from somewhere else?
See, if I'm charging for the ingredients, the premise has to be that I am honest to myself, I'm honest to my business, and I'm honest to my customer. If I'm only building a story where I'm just saying ki, I'm getting the finest ingredients of ABC, and then I'm charging that much, and then I'm not giving that, आज नहीं तो कल नहीं तो परसों पकड़े जाओगे. खाना, कैमरा और माइक बोलते हैं. They don't just have ears, they also have a mouth. It's a very deep thought. मैं आज कुछ माइक में बोल रहा हूँ ना, so sound is something that I have learned. I'm sure you have also learned. It's not just my voice, it's every other voice that it's. And what is going to speak is all those voices. It's not only going to speak my voice because, hey, Chef Ajay Chopra is sitting in front of me. No. So is the camera. It's going to take my emotion. And so is food. When we were making TV programs, we were told that नहीं ऐसे करो. इसे नहीं करूँगा. Because that's not how it is done. People are going to see it and mock me if they see I'm going to be lying about something. It cannot be. So not today, not tomorrow, you will be found, right? So the fact is that I need to decide again in the vision and in the concept, who am I? If I'm saying that I will only source sustainable ingredients. So one of the restaurants that we are doing in Mumbai and Pune is called Pash. The owner's lifestyle says we are sustainable. They've stopped wearing any other cloth than cotton. Any other cloth. So they only do linen and cotton, right? Because they know that any kind of fabric that is involved in mixing is not sustainable. So their lifestyle is first like this. So in 2018, when I was sitting with this gentleman, Mr. Sunil Karad, he actually owns the MIT University in Pune. He and I was speaking, and he said that I want to open a restaurant which is sustainable. My first question, sir, what do you mean by sustainable? Because do you mean and believe in what you're saying? And then he gave me this, that Ajay, look at my shirt, look at my trouser. I want to live sustainable because for me, sustainability is not just a talk or a thought, it's a lifestyle. So if I am having a lifestyle of sustainability, then I need to create a restaurant which is sustainable. Then we started to throttle about the fact that, okay, what makes a sustainable restaurant? So for me, I am a brand ambassador for the European Union Modern Food Products in India. The one question that keeps getting asked by me that how can it be sustainable? You say that it's sustainable, but it's been flown from so many miles away. So I tell them that, yes, I understand that it's been flown from so many miles away. And that does tick off one of the aspects of sustainability of this particular format. But what about the growing procedures? If I'm buying, let's say, a tomato in India, was it grown without pesticides? Was it grown in a manner that my field is going to be sustainable? Was it grown in a biodiverse way? The all answers are no. So if I'm importing a tomato which is much finer and better, I know that I'm paying a heavy price for it, but I will get a good price for it as well. And for me, what are premium ingredients? Why does Dubai and Abu Dhabi have all the premium ingredients? Because they realize the meaning of premiumness. And that's what they pay the price for. So if I'm not speaking that language and abiding by it, then my customer is going to find out. So today, if my concept note does not state any of this, I'm just going to make good food, a great butter chicken. तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता मेरा प्याज अफ्रीका से आ रहा है या अल्जीरिया से आ रहा है या नॉर्थ अमेरिका से आ रहा है या पाकिस्तान से आ रहा है, इंडिया से आ रहा है. बटर चिकन खाओगे, उंगली चाटते रह जाओगे. दैट्स माई प्रॉमिस. सो व्हाट्स द प्रॉमिस यू आर मेकिंग? देन माई एवरीथिंग एल्स फॉलोज बिहाइंड. अब मेरे को पता है कि अमूल बटर का टेस्ट वर्सेस लुरपक का टेस्ट बहुत अलग है. मेरे बटर चिकन में स्वाद अमूल बटर देगा, लुरपक नहीं दे सकता, चाहे कितना ही अच्छा बटर हो, राइट? क्योंकि मेरे जबान में अमूल चढ़ा हुआ है. So my promise is great butter chicken, India wala butter chicken. I'm serving my promise. But if my promise says that I'm going to give you the most healthiest butter chicken with low fat butter and less cream, and this and that, then I serve my promise. Is what I am serving is what I am saying.
ये गलती I think काफी 5-star restaurants करते because I'm sure they're sourcing the finest ingredients, premium ingredients यहाँ से import हो रहे हैं. But फिर many 5-star restaurants, you notice a lot of people say this कि उसमें घर वाली बात नहीं थी, इतने पैसे दे दिए पर घर के खाने से कोई comparison नहीं है. ऐसा क्यों होता है कि sometimes the home food outshines a 5-star restaurant even though they're importing the best possible ingredients?
इसके दो रीज़न हैं और इसका पहला रीज़न ये है कि मैंने आपको वेस्टर्न मुंबई की और वो गोरे की बात करी थी. वो फूड कॉस्ट को बाय द वे हम लोग वहीं पे छोड़ के कहीं और चले गए थे. वो 31% फूड कॉस्ट को मैंने 4 महीने के अंदर 23% फूड कॉस्ट कर दिया था. वही सेम ऑपरेशन, बेटर ऑफरिंग्स, बट गोइंग इन टू द डीप ऑफ थिंग्स एंड फाइंडिंग आउट व्हाट इज टेकिंग माई कॉस्ट अवे. तो वहाँ पे क्या हो रहा था, इम्पोर्टेड कॉर्न से कॉर्न टिक्की बन रही थी. तो ये तो मतलब इसका एक ही शब्द है हिंदी में, बेवकूफ़ी. देयर इज नो अदर वर्ड टू दिस. व्हाई वुड आई मेक कॉर्न टिक्की विद इम्पोर्टेड कॉर्न? When I'm buying such imported high quality corn which is more sweet, I'll rather make a nice soup out of it or I'll make a nice sauce out of it and then charge people. Buffet में अगर मैं corn टिक्की में imported corn डाल रहा हूँ तो मेरे से बड़ा बेवकूफ़ कोई नहीं है, right? Indian sweets. We were buying Indian sweets for 5.5-6 lakh rupees every single month. And it's a requirement of the banquet. And I said, okay, fine, let's do the mathematics. Sorry, I'm gone back to the old question, but I'll answer your current question also. हलवाई, उसका हेल्पर, उसका एक और हेल्पर, न्यू रेंज, कढ़ाईज, एवरीथिंग सेट अप टुगेदर एंड बाइंग ऑफ ऑल एवरीथिंग. वी डिड दैट. द नेक्स्ट मंथ द एंटायर कॉस्ट वॉज 2.5 lakh rupees and the quality was mine. So straight away saved 3 lakh rupees in the whole game. So when I say from 32% we went to 23%, each percentage in money value was 70,000 rupees because I was buying worth of that much. So which means that if I saved 9%, I was actually taking 5,40,000 rupees and putting that in my owner's pocket saying, hello, bonus for you, right? Generally it's the opposite, right? The company gives you bonus. But here, ulta ho raha hai, right? And that's how we mitigated the cost. So which means that you have to be a chef, passionate chef, who knows his food, but who also knows that A particular ingredient, अगर B particular ingredients जैसा है, उससे कम कॉस्ट में है, उससे ज़्यादा स्वाद दे सकता है, I might as well use it. So you have to become more wide open in your sense of understanding of the whole market and where you're standing. So अब आते हैं हम वापस से उस पॉइंट पे, प्यार, नानी, दादी, मेरी नानी का खाना इतना अच्छा क्यों है, मेरी माँ का खाना. तो आई वॉन्ट टू आस्क यू क्वेश्चन नाउ शैलज. खाना बनाते हो कभी कभी?
हाँ जी.
नमकदानी यूज़ करते हो?
हाँ जी.
तो खाने में नमक डालोगे तो खाना नमकीन हो जाएगा.
बिल्कुल.
मिर्च डालोगे तो स्पाइसी हो जाएगा. हल्दी डालोगे तो पीला हो जाएगा. स्वाद कैसे आता है?
आई गेस पेशेंस एंड अब खुद के लिए खाना बन रहा है तो थोड़ा अपने लिए द राइट अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम लाइक एफर्ट दैट यू पुट इन.
Bang on, right? Because I asked this question again in a lot of TEDx things and a lot of the other conferences, and I asked people, I said, well, if you put salt, it becomes salty. And if you put, they said, what do you put to becomes tasty? I said, love, love, love. So where is love? Show me in the namakdani, where is love? So it's not in the namakdani. It's, I am a Bible believing person. I'm a Christian. And I know this from the Bible where it says in 1 Corinthians 13, that love is patient, love is kind. And that's where I drew, even in the cooking sense, that if I'm not patient, if I'm not going to saute my onions for 3 minutes if it's required, and I will put my tomato after 1 minute, it's not going to taste the same. As simple as that. तो माँ को कभी खाना बनाते देखो या नानी को देखो तो वो हाथ पे ना यूँ टपली पड़ती है, अभी नहीं, और भुनने दे थोड़ा, right? That is patience. Because it's required to be bhun out for that long, or the oil has to be heated for that long, or it has to be with this type of ghee and not that type of oil. Very particular patience, right? And also they're kind to their ingredients. They're not like bashing. In a hotel scenario, we are driven by speed sometimes and not by love. We're not cooking that 1 or 2 portions. We are making mass productions, bulk productions. But usme bhi, certain chefs, like I'm not just bragging about myself, but even when I was a banquet chef and I was cooking for 500 people, I would not let any dish out if it was average. It had to be tasty. It had to be finger-licking tasty. भाई जहाँ तुम 10 लोगों का बोलते हो आला कार्ट में खाना अच्छा टेस्टी बन जाता है, बट बैंक्वेट में नहीं बनता है. रॉन्ग. खाना टेस्टी बनाना तुम्हारा काम है, तुम्हारी आर्ट है, तुम्हारी कला है, तुम्हारी स्किल है. अब तुम 10 में बनाओ, 100 में बनाओ, तुम्हारी प्रॉब्लम है. यू फिगर इट आउट हाउ टू मेक इट टेस्टी. इफ यू कांट डू इट, आई विल डू इट फॉर यू. And that is why I sat down all my chef de cuisines when I was the executive chef at Western Mumbai. There were about 7 chef de cuisines who were reporting to me for 7 restaurants. And everybody was saying this and that, and chef, how do I become a next executive chef? And that time I was the judge on MasterChef as well. So I told them, I said, guys, listen, I'm not your executive chef because I just come here and sit down on this seat because I was the judge on MasterChef. I am your executive chef because I can cook better than you, faster than you, cleaner than you, more organized than you. I can cost the food that I'm cooking, and also at the same point of time I can go to the guest and talk to him about that thing. I can create another menu whilst I'm cooking in my mind, and if these are your qualities, then you will become the next executive chef. Don't think that I will become an executive chef because I've served this company for 3 years as a chef de cuisine. No, that's not the parameter. The parameter is that for being a great executive chef, these are your qualities. And if you are that executive chef, then people will follow you. You will have to ask people, respect me because I'm your executive chef. People will respect you because you're a great executive chef.
आपने health and safety की बात भी की. What are the different things that I have to take care of? What is the checklist of items or routines or processes you have to put in place कि आपका restaurant जो health and safety standards को meet करेगा? So when the inspectors come, it will pass all the tests.
So, I'll take you to a beautiful story that I was first time induced to. So we were executive chefs, food and beverage directors and general managers in a conference in Shanghai at the time when I was with Westin. So Starwood Hotels के कुछ 1000 top management के लोग बैठे हैं एक room में, and Alice Wong, who's the head of finance, comes and opens this conference and said, "Good morning, everyone." In that Hong Kong accent, "I want to ask everybody a question. What is that one thing you need to run a hotel properly? And all the general managers, will smile, oh, market share, oh, profitability, or, the chefs are saying great food. The food and beverage directors are saying great experience. Oh, no, you're all wrong. 1,000 top leaders of 500 hotels in a room saying all wrong. The only thing you need to run a great hotel is common sense. And that is so deep and is so true, because if you actually thread out every single process of running a hotel, you will get all your answers. So when your guest comes in, the darban can choose to open the door with a smile, with a warmth, or just open the door. That decides your guest experience right from point zero. Then it comes to reception. Common sense. What does he need? He's come from a long flight or he's come traveling from somewhere. He cannot be standing in a line for a long time. That's where hotels came up with the process of in-room check-in. Common sense, right? क्या साइन करना है ना, पासपोर्ट देखना है ना, मैं कर लूँगा. Just give me your passport, I'll give it back to you. मेरे लिए एक्स्ट्रा काम है, होटल बोल रहा है, but I'll do it for you. For me, that's more important that you are relaxed. Why do you have water, chilled water, towels on your reception desk? Because of all of this, right? You start thinking, if I am traveling from a long distance flight and I'm coming to a hotel, what is happening to me? And that's why, the general managers who were given these privileges to travel for this conference and that conference, they had to come and submit a report of what changes are you going to make when you come back. For us as executive chefs, we were not just given a priority, seat and all of those goodies and staying in a beautiful hotel for 7 days, but we were asked for a report that what was your learnings and how will you take those learnings and start using them. And we had to come down to trash basics of saying, okay, this is what I want, this is what my customer wants. And when our eye changes from me, the hotel, serving you, the customer, to you, the customer, me, the hotel, understanding your needs, that's where the game changes. So now, even if I take your question on health and hygiene, common sense. माँ कभी भी बिना हाथ धोए किचन में घुसती है? नहीं घुसती. So your entry point पे आपका सिंक होना चाहिए. Entry point पे sanitizer होना चाहिए. Because there are too many surfaces, there are too many people. किचन में तो एक ही माँ होती है. एक ही का हाथ लग रहा होता है. यहाँ पे 12 लोग हैं, 12 डिफरेंट हाथ, पर्सनल हाइजीन. कौन टॉयलेट गया, किसने हाथ धोया, नहीं धोया, मैं तो नहीं देख सकता. So I need to make sure that before they enter the kitchen, their hands are clean, their hands are sanitized, they're well groomed. I'm all of my part of my checklist. And then when my checklist every single day, I'm making sure माँ कभी भी 2 दिन से ऊपर खाना रखती है. So 48-hour shelf life, right? I mean, all this is common sense. If you have to just relate it back to your home, this is just basic common sense. So today everything is available online. So you look at your checklist that what you need to have a great place for health and safety. All your rules are there, and you relate them all back to common sense. And they're all common sense. The reason why we're not using a kitchen towel versus a paper towel is because in a kitchen there's one hand using everything. If there's one doctor in an operating theater, they would not even use gloves. But there are 7 people in an operation theater, 7 different biomes, 7 different viruses probably carried with them. They need to make sure that it becomes an atmosphere which is safe, right? So that's where the difference is. We are a community serving a community. My primal thing is that if you eat my food, you just don't enjoy it, but you enjoy it tomorrow as well, which means that you're not been sitting on the pot for a long time and you're having a stomach ache or whatever. So I am thinking it from that perspective. If I am bothered about my consumer, in the every aspect, so taste will not only be my aspect. कहीं जाते हो आप बोलते हो सोडा ज़्यादा था, पेट में दर्द हो गया, पेट फूल गया. Because they're not thinking that. They're thinking मेरा फायदा. They're not thinking the whole journey. If you think the whole journey, all it needs is a great leader throttling this down for you. And that's where a McKinsey of life comes in and takes millions of dollars from you and gives you a perspective that you already knew or you did not think of, which was right there. So that's what we do as consultants today. I mean, whenever I'm opening restaurants, I look at all these basic things. When I'm designing a kitchen, I don't become Chef Ajay Chopra, the master chef. I become the commie Ajay Chopra and stand there that if I am cooking, where will my pan go? Most of my chefs are right-handed, which means their pan will go on the left hand because that's where I'm picking my pan from. I'm never going to use a pan from here and then put it here. It's obstruction of time. One onion at a time. This is what happened. How did I approach from 8 bags of onions to 8 bags of onions in 10 hours to 8 bags of onion in 5 hours? Was because TQM, total quality management, was happening even in onions. I picking up from here, नहीं 5 सेकंड ज़्यादा लग रहा है, इसको यहाँ करो, 1 सेकंड ज़्यादा लग रहा है, डस्टबिन को यहाँ करो. So I was making those changes in my own atmosphere so that I could become more efficient. And now you have to think not for your own self, but for the 12 people who will be working when you are not there. I don't live in Abu Dhabi, but yesterday I got a feedback from one customer. Your food's been so consistent. You're not there. How come this happens? I said, it's very simple. It's very simple. You believe in your people and you train them well so that they become your imposters. That's it. That's very simple. But it's just that a lot of people, it's a big journey from here to here. I believe in my people. I believe in my people. It's a big journey. Now this journey ke beech mein, there will be people who will mess up. But if your heart is, I believe in my people, I will train them even though they make mistakes. I believe in my people, I'll fire them if they make mistakes. You see the difference? Yeah? So I think that's where a businessman has to agree, understand, realize, believe that this is not just a process that I can run a great restaurant. It's a part of the process. Everything is a part of the process. Money is a part of the process. Coming in, going out, both. Right? So you have to understand it, and that's why there is no book written in this whole wide world where people can pick up a book, how to open a restaurant, A, B, C. There is no written book. Have you ever wondered why? Because each restaurant is a case study. Each restaurant will become a case study for itself because it will excel not just on one parameter. You can have ground rules to open a restaurant, but you can never have how to open a restaurant. There is no book like that because each restaurant is a different story, a different location, a different set of people coming together to create success. I can never make my restaurant successful because I cannot do that if I don't have a great team. If my great team doesn't believe in me, I cannot do that. It's all intertwined. So I have to understand, believe, and then expect. And I also believe in one thing very strongly is that things don't happen when you expect. Things happen when you inspect. And I think Dubai, Abu Dhabi is a great example of this. So we are human beings. Everybody needs a latada end of the day.
आज आपने मेरे साथ ये एक बुक तो बनाई है, ये हाउ टू मेक योर ओन रेस्टोरेंट. आई वांट टू बी रिस्पेक्टफुल ऑफ योर टाइम. यू गिव मी सो मच ग्रेट एडवाइस. वेरी क्विकली मैं आपको रैपिड फायर थोड़े दूंगा. आप मुझे बताना whether these things matter or not, and then we'll have the complete checklist of how to start your restaurant. Name of the restaurant मायने रखता है?
बहुत difficult question है. Let's put a percentage to it. 30%.
Okay, so there's some amount of importance, but don't kill yourself over what name you're giving the restaurant.
I mean, Zazu. What does it mean?
No
Nothing.
idea.
It's a great restaurant. Or Fali Brothers. It's the name of their family.
Yeah.
Right? It's not Zuma. Right? But Zuma. Think about Zuma. What is Zuma? Zuma is fire. Right? So the fact is that some restaurants serve their concept. Some restaurants believe in their concept. But some restaurants just live a concept.
Location is location important, क्योंकि कुछ लोग कहते हैं अगर रेस्टोरेंट अच्छा है तो लोग दूर दूर तक आएंगे. एंड दैट्स ट्रू. लाइक मुझे भी जो खाना पसंद है, अगर मुझे पता है पार्किंग नहीं मिलेगी, ट्रैफिक होगा, फिर भी आई विल गो ऑल द वे. और डू यू थिंक लोकेशन ऑल्सो प्लेज अ रोल?
Okay, so again, we spoke about restaurants which are restaurant A, B, C, D, and E, right? E restaurants, which means that where food is the only important factor, it doesn't matter where you are, because only food is calling you back, right? But if you are going to celebrate something magnanimous, you're not going to go to that E restaurant and celebrate. You're going to go to a B restaurant or A restaurant, depending on at that point of the month what your pocket is allowing. And that point of time, that restaurant location is very important. So today when we are opening a restaurant, first question still remains the same. What category of restaurant do you want to open? If category is A, B or C, then location is very important.
Menu design, how important is it कि कौन सी डिश कहाँ आती है, ऊपर नीचे डिशेस का नाम, व्हाट प्राइस पॉइंट यू स्टार्ट है, इज देयर साइकोलॉजी बिहाइंड द मेन्यू डिजाइन?
It's a proper science, and I would say 80% of restaurants don't know it, don't understand it, but the 20% who do make a good job out of it. Yeah, and very simply that when you open your menu page, psychologically your eyes not go to the left, but they go to the right on the top. So on the top, you have a dish which is the most expensive dish, because that will lead you to make a decision to say नहीं ये तो यार ये नहीं है. Then you will go to the left.
आपने वो बेस सेट कर दिया उधर.
हाँ, then you go to the left and suddenly from 100 dirhams to you see 40 dirhams. हाँ ये अच्छा है, ये कर लेते हैं, ये भी चिकन है, ये भी चिकन है, या ये लॉबस्टर है, ये चिकन है. तो आपने लॉबस्टर देखा, हाँ 100 दिरहम पे. आपने चिकन देखा, यार आज अपनी औकात चिकन वाली है, चिकन खाते हैं, रेस्टोरेंट बढ़िया है, इनका सभी बढ़िया होगा ना, लॉबस्टर बढ़िया तो चिकन भी बढ़िया होगा.
तो वो डिश उधर रखी है इसी रीजन के लिए कि आप, बट नॉट नेसेसरी द डिश यू वांट पीपल टू ऑर्डर.
So the thing is that again that's a science that that 100 dirham dish is going to be what we call it is contributor, right? What's the contribution margin of each dish? So contribution margin of that dish is high because 100 dirham की है. अगर वो 4 भी बिकी तो मेरी 40 dirham वाली मेरे को 10 बेचनी पड़ेंगी वर्सेस 4. तो मैं इसके 4 पोर्शन रख के बैठा हूँ, इसके 20 पोर्शन रख के बैठा हूँ, क्योंकि ये मेरे को पता है ज़्यादा बिकती है, पर उसकी कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन मार्जिन ज़्यादा है, राइट? सो मेन्यू में एवरीथिंग हैज़ अ प्लेस. मेन्यू में अगर मैं लॉबस्टर डाल रहा हूँ तो मेरी फूड कॉस्ट उसकी मैं 25% पे नहीं रख सकता. दैट फूड कॉस्ट भी 60% और 50%. आई हैव टू टेक दैट हिट. अगर वो हिट हो गई तब मैं उसका प्राइस बढ़ा दूंगा, पर अगर जब तक वो हिट नहीं हुई है तो आई हैव टू पुट इट अ प्राइस वेयर आई एम टेकिंग द हिट, राइट? सो उसमें ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग बहुत ज़रूरी है कि विच डिश इज गिविंग यू हाउ मच रेवेन्यू वर्सेस हाउ मच फूड कॉस्ट. वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
बड़ी साइकोलॉजिकल प्ले भी है ना कि उस डिश की वजह से कुछ दूसरी डिश ऑर्डर हो रही है तो उसका थोड़ा कॉस्ट उधर जा रहा है.
नहीं, वो तो जाएगा ही जाएगा, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली आप मेन्यू बनाते हो तो मेन्यू के बाद एक मेन्यू मिक्स एनालिसिस बनाते हो, राइट? अब उसमें मेन्यू मिक्स एनालिसिस में क्या होता है कि आप रफ गेम खेलते हो कि यार मेरे ना 100 कस्टमर आएंगे, उसमें 2 लॉबस्टर ऑर्डर करेंगे, 10 चिकन ऑर्डर करेंगे, 12 वेज ऑर्डर करेंगे, तो मेरा हर एक का कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन मार्जिन कितना आया. Contribution margin is not just the amount that you are charging. Contribution amount is how many portions you are selling. So the contribution margin of chicken is actually higher than the lobster, while the cost of the lobster is higher than of the chicken. So overall cost आपको पता है कि आपको let's say 26% रखनी है. ये cost 60 है, तो ये cost 12% होगी. तभी वो कहीं ना कहीं बैठ के 26% पे आएगा. So you have to balance the entire thing.
This is so fascinating. एक तो I must say, when you were starting out, you have said कि getting all this knowledge was so tough क्योंकि हेड शेफ के पैर दबाने पड़ते थे, उनके लिए चाय लाना पड़ता था. फिर आपने जाके पूछ लिया ये कैसे बनती है? हाँ बनती है. नमक कितना डालना है? हाँ अंदाज से जितना डालना है डालते हैं.
स्वाद अनुसार.
स्वाद अनुसार. आपने आज ऐसे मैजिक ट्रिक की कर्टन खोल के दिखा दिया कि how it happens. I think this was fascinating. Before we move into the final 2 questions, I have to ask you about MasterChef also. What role do these reality shows play in the promotion of the culinary arts? Is it a net positive क्योंकि they create a lot more awareness, they inspire a lot of people to become chefs? Or do you think because at the end of the day ये reality show है, इसको entertainment ratings drama चाहिए, so at times they can also promote certain stigmas about the industry and they maybe put a wrong impression about cooking in general?
Good and evil has always been together since the beginning of this world, and when God created this earth, do you know that his vision was never that man will never die? You know that?
God ने मुझे तो नहीं बताया, but
वैसे मुझे भी सेपरेटली नहीं बताया, बट बाइबल में लिखा है और मैं बाइबल में विश्वास रखता हूँ. But death came to man when man sinned, right? And why did man sin? Because evil was existent. और ईव के कान में आके सरपेंट ने कहा कुछ नहीं होगा, खा ले बिंदास, नो प्रॉब्लम, राइट? ईव ने खा लिया. परमेश्वर ने कहा था कि सब कुछ तुम्हारा है. नाउ इफ यू यूज दिस एनालॉजी इन योर क्वेश्चन, योर क्वेश्चन इज दैट was MasterChef created to have these emotional dramas? No. MasterChef has been the most influential program on the face of this earth, because 10 years back, we were called bawarchis. Our salaries were meager, you know. I didn't have a home of my own. But today I have two. Because it helped me to create that name for me, name for the industry, name for all the chefs. And I'm very humbly saying this, that I'm not here only representing myself. I'm representing the fraternity. I'm representing the entire community of chefs. And that is what I told myself when I first went on that show, that thank God, God's really been kind that I've got this for me, but it's not for me. You know, it's for everyone. And really speaking, people ask me, how did you get MasterChef? I said, it was God's grace. Because I did not do anything. There are 1,000 much more amazing chefs than me or were there at that time. You know, Ranveer Brar also existed at that time when I was a judge. Where was he? Why was he not chosen? Why was he chosen 4 years later? Because some things are destiny. Some things are God created and God timed. You know, it happens when it has to happen. And I just have to thank God. So if I have to look at MasterChef, the season 1's calling was tasty dish vana game finish, which means clear game show. Aao, jeeto, jao. Season 2 said, ab India, ab badlo apne khane ka andaz. And from 2011, India has transformed the way we eat. You know, previously as a Punjabi, I would never possibly make South Indian dishes or Mangalorean dishes at home. Now I'm making. Why? Because I've changed the way I think. I've changed the way I eat. I've changed the way I perceive culinary, cuisine, food. You know, आज से 100 साल पहले भी यही हो रहा था. अब मेरा next move क्या है? Change this perception about Indian patissiers. You know who I'm talking about? Halwai. Bawarchi became chef. Halwai is still halwai. Whilst pastry chefs are pastry chefs, they're patisserie chefs. Who will do this for the Indian patisserie? I was in Paris just now, and you want to have a macaron from Pierre Hermé. €5 का एक macaron. है क्या वो? 12 ग्राम एग वाइट, 18 ग्राम आलमंड फ्लावर, 10 ग्राम चीनी, 20 ग्राम चॉकलेट. Cost of total everything is less than €1. मतलब half a euro, I would say. इतना महंगा बेच रहे हो. क्या बिक रहा है? नाम और स्किल. पियर एर्मे को बोलो मोतीचूर लड्डू बना के दिखा. I'm sorry, huge respects for that chef because he's a legend in pastry. But I'm trying to draw a comparison. I think he will also agree with me that this skill is not easy. But again, जैसा आपने बोला कि हमने कैसे सीखा, हमने क्रॉनिकलाइज किया, हमने साइंटिफिक अप्रोच को लिया कि अच्छा ये शेफ नहीं बता रहा कि प्याज के बाद मटन क्यों जाएगा, मटन पहले क्यों नहीं जाएगा. तो हमने उसको अंडरस्टैंड किया कि अच्छा मेलार्ड रिएक्शन हो रहा है, प्याज ब्राउन होना जरूरी है, तभी प्याज घुलेगा. प्याज अगर कच्चा जाएगा तो प्याज घुलेगा नहीं, मुंह में आएगा. अब हलवाई से कौन बात करेगा ये? अब आज की डेट में हलवाई से बात करो तो वो बोलता है चीडो हो गया. I don't understand his language because I don't work with him. So he will not change for me. I'll have to change for him. I'll have to find out what does he mean by chido ho gaya. Then I have to see the texture. I say, oh, this sugar is actually crystallized, which means it's become tougher than what it used to be.
ये वो skill और knowledge की बात है जो आप पहले कह रहे थे. Yeah.
Right? उसके पास skill है, मेरे पास knowledge है. दोनों का combination skill और knowledge आगे लेके जाएगा. So that is my new found love, which I am going to pursue in the next coming of years. And I will create a mithai brand which will become the Gucci showroom of Indian mithai.
I'm sure you'll do it. हमको ज़रूर बुलाना जब आप खोलेंगे.
इंडिया में शुरू हो गया है. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं अकेला हूँ. Bombay Sweet Shop is already doing a lot of good stuff. Meetha is already doing a lot of good stuff. But I still feel that, you know, pastry chefs have to come onto the bandwagon. And परसों हम लोग का एक award function हुआ था, India Pastry Chefs का recognition. And I spoke on that stage. And I told them, hey, I'm not a pastry chef. In fact, I'm a bad pastry chef. I can't cook pastry because that's the art you guys are very good in. And literally speaking, I used to run away from pastries when I had to cook. But I know what a good pastry is. I know what a great pastry is. I know who's a good pastry chef. I know who's a bad pastry chef. I know who's a great pastry chef because I've been an executive chef and that was a part of my job. But today I stand here because I really feel this from my heart that, who will recognize this art? Who will take this to the level? I mean, Gagan has done something amazing. He took a ghevar shell and, he's used that in his restaurant as something. A lot of other chefs are trying their bits, but I think the effort has to become conjoint, collaborative, and it's going to be like all of us together will push this mountain. I cannot do it alone.
I'm excited. I hope it comes through. Chalo, let's start wrapping up. Before we go there, आप मुझे ये बताइए आपने क्या masterpiece बनाया लेगो के साथ?
ये masterpiece कैसे बोलोगे आप इसको?
अरे ये तो क्या बढ़िया चीज़ बनाई है. क्या लगता है
ये एक community है, मतलब एक building है जहाँ पे यार ना आप बड़े अच्छे हो, मतलब यू आर अ थॉट प्रोवोकिंग जेंटलमैन आई वुड से.
मैंने क्या किया?
आपने बोला क्या है एंड देन लीड्स यू टू थिंक वेयर डज योर मोटिवेशन कम्स फ्रॉम. आई एम मोटिवेटेड बाय दिस मैन विकास ओबरॉय, नॉट द वन हु ओन्स ओबरॉय होटल्स बट द वन हु ओन्स ओबरॉय रियल्टी. एंड इन अ मैटर ऑफ 10 years, Goregaon, which was a nobody, is now a place where one flat is worth 7.5 crores. There's a 5-star deluxe hotel there. There's an international school there. There are 5 high rises there. And there's a mall there.
आपने गोरेगांव बनाया?
तो ये Oberoi Realty का project है. And he took time to teach the management at Westin because he owned that hotel. So he said 2 things which are very, 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 very profound. He said, how many hours do you have in a day? Everybody said 24. What was that question? He said, no. Let me open my calculator and tell you how many hours did he say. He said, I have 86,400 hours in my day.
हाँ, अच्छा. Seconds हुए ये तो.
Right? You know how?
Every second is an hour?
No. These many people work for him.
अच्छा.
Profound. I mean, if I am thinking myself, I am growing. But if I am thinking that this whole village is behind me, for me, with me, then their hours are my hours. What they do is my productivity. Right? That was one thing very, very profound. The other thing he said that as a child, he used to actually play SimCity.
Oh, क्या game है?
And in that SimCity, he used to build things. And he said, what you see today as this whole Oberoi Realty park was a SimCity design in one day. And I went to, so he got this place, I don't know how, but he got this 100 acre of land. And overnight, he gave a plan which raised the FSI from X to 10x, right? And then he got McKinsey on board, and then he started to build the hotel because all that required a huge amount of investments, right? And that's how he built that city. But that city was once built on a SimCity board. You know? Yeah. So vision can be today, what I'm thinking and dreaming today. It will materialize if I catch on that vision and continue running with it. If I drop it, it's pieces.
SimCity तो हमने भी बचपन में खेला था, but unfortunately मैं तो कुछ बना नहीं पाया गोरेगांव जैसे. Hopefully at some point in the future. Last 3 questions. What would you like your legacy to be? कैसी निशानी छोड़ना चाहते हैं आप?
मैं हूँ कौन जो मैं निशानी छोड़ूं? मेरी औकात ही क्या है कि मैं निशानी छोड़ूं? अगर मैं ये बोलूं कि मेरे जैसे 10 लोग या 20 लोग या 22 लोग या 50 लोग या 100 लोग बन जाएं, तो वो it will be a very very proud thought. I would say that if I am able to raise a generation who doesn't think like me but who thinks better than me, but in a positive light, then I would say that I've done something. So raising a generation, not just a few people, is what I'm working upon.
One of these perceptions that you're changing is with Big Daddy Chef. You're the author of the book, series भी है. आपने स्टार्टिंग में मेंशन किया था कि often ऐसा क्यों होता है कि घर में women are in the kitchen, but in these big positions of head chef, it's often men. So what perception are you trying to change with Big Daddy Chef?
So when I wrote this book or when I came up with this thought process, no, I came up with a vision statement as well. So who is the Big Daddy Chef? पहले तो मैंने सोचा कि I'm big, I'm a daddy, I'm a chef. So I'm the Big Daddy Chef. But then it quickly changed because I realized that daddy can become the Big Daddy. And a chef associated with it can be a Big Daddy Chef. And that got changed because one of the days I was at my friend's place and daughter was, I think, 16 or 17 years old. And daughter on a Sunday afternoon, we were there as a family. So पहले थोड़ी सी बातचीत हुई, आधे पौने घंटे बाद daughter बोलती है, okay daddy, I'm going, okay uncle, I'm going to my friends. तो चुपके से friend ने बोला, मैं पास्ता बना रहा हूँ. You know what happened next? She dropped her bags and said, okay, I'm not going. Now I picked up something from this. I said, daddy is a magnet pull in the house, right? अब माँ रोज़ खाना बनाती है तो एक थोड़ा रेगुलर सी बात हो गई, पर अगर डैड खाना बनाता है तो वाओ हो जाता है, चाहे वो कुछ भी बनाए. Number 2 thing is that today children are all over the place. They have no direction. Being and putting them at home by force is no longer the way to go. So you have to create doing some things. Now, my son loves to play Lego, so I can sit with him on a Sunday afternoon and say कि चलिए Lego बनाते हैं. Right? He'll be interested in that. But what about my second son? वो इधर उधर हो जाएगा. So if I have to do a collaborative thing, cooking is one thing which joins everybody. Everybody. मतलब you can create that as a fun atmosphere कि चलो आज तो हमने घर में कई बार हम घर में mystery box challenge करते हैं. So wife को बोलता हूँ कि चलो mystery box. और your fridge is a mystery box, no? एक गोभी पड़ी है, 2 आलू पड़े हैं, 4 ये पड़े हैं. What can you make with this which is interesting? Let's create a MasterChef dish. So gets people excited in the house, and then let's do this and let's do that. So for me, I think, this is the most important thing, that how we bring the family together, and it's the dad's responsibility really. Everything in the house is my responsibility. My wife, according to the Bible, is a perfect helper. God created Eve as a perfect helper to man. काम मेरा है, वो help कर रही है मेरी. So I have to feel, believe and think like that. And if I think like that, then Big Daddy Chef was born. So a man who is not just saying कि I'm busy, I'm working, I'm traveling. अरे बाबा, your children are your responsibility. They're your children. बाहर के नहीं है वो. So who will become their daddy? Who will become their Big Daddy? If you cook with them, you become their Big Daddy. Your mom is going to be romanticized with this entire thing. Your mom as in your children's mom, which means your wife. And when she sees a husband who's cooking in the kitchen and having the boys along, that's the most romantic thing for a mom. I mean, you ask a mom, you ask my wife. I think the most romantic thing from any mom. But on the contrary, the question is still, why are all the men the chefs and not women? The very fact is the job is very demanding. Very, very demanding. There are some women who have taken this as a challenge, like Garima Arora, 3 Michelin stars, man. Oh. Hats off, right? Or many other women chefs who have taken this on. नहीं अब करूँगी यार, 1 बच्चा हो 2 बच्चा हो, ये मेरी life है. But not everybody is like that. 100 में से 1 ऐसी निकलती है रानी झांसी, सारी नहीं होती. But हमारे लिए क्या है कि भाई मेरे को तो नौकरी करनी है, मेरे को तो मार खानी है, थप्पड़ खाने हैं, पतीले उठाने हैं, सब कुछ करना है, हार्डवर्क करना है. हार्डवर्क इज अ पार्ट ऑफ माई लाइफ. अब मैं आज यहाँ फौज में जाऊँ, चाहे मैं किचन में आऊँ, चाहे मैं कहीं और जाऊँ, इट्स माई लाइफ.
Important message. I hope more daddies enter the kitchen. Akhri question. What is the meaning of life? Chef Ajay.
Wow. Great ending. Meaning of life. Life is very short. Let's take the example of a charging wire. The top part of it which actually gets plugged in. And then there's a long wire attached to it. A lot of people think that long wire is life. But actually, your life is only that much. That's small. And there's a big eternal life behind it, which people don't see it. Because they don't see it, they don't believe it. But actually, the truth is that 60 years, 70 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, however much time we spend on this earth, our life is as big as that. There's a huge trail of eternal life that is waiting for us. Where will we spend eternity is a very big question. So for me, life is about answering that question every day. With that question, I make my choices. Good or evil. The Bible says, choose good, choose life, choose evil, choose death. It's a very strong statement. But the death is eternal death. If I do not live a life which is submitted to God, sin is going to be prevalent in my life. And ऐसा नहीं है कि I don't sin and I become the most holy person. I still fall down. But I don't hide that sin anymore. I take it to God and say, God, you know what? I did something wrong. I shouted at that man. I should have not. Would you please forgive me? And He's gracious to forgive you. But He's going to look at your heart and say, are you hiding something from me, son? It's a dad-son relationship. Think about it. You're a son. You know, if you're hiding something from your dad knows it. It's not just choosing not to say it. But when it becomes prevalent in you, He is going to take you to one side and say, son, what are you doing? It's not right. Drop it. Let's come back. That's how our Father in heaven speaks to us. It's our choice. Do we drop it? Or do we continue? मैं तो लड़ाई करके रहूँगा, मैं दिखाऊँगा उसको मैं कौन हूँ, मैं सनी देओल. No, it doesn't work like that. So I was a very angry man. Very angry man. And what people ask about Gordon Ramsay, that is it true? Yes, it's true. The life in a kitchen is like that. But now the same people see me and say, Chef, आपको क्या हो गया? I said, कुछ नहीं हुआ. Jesus Christ changed my life. I started to think differently. You know, and that's how I now think. So for me, life is about choices you make today because they decide your tomorrow.
Sir, अगर लोग आपके साथ connect करना चाहते हैं, if they want to eat your food, read your book, watch your series, what is the best way to find you or connect with you?
There's no best way. India में ही मेरी book available है. We are trying to make it global now, but with at least an ebook. So my book is available in India in Amazon and Flipkart. I run my YouTube channel where I put down 2 recipes every week. So you can interact with me through those recipes, through those comments. You can interact through me with DMs on Instagram.
Sir, it's been a joy to talk to you today. Thank you so much. It's been a privilege for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a great one talking to you as well, because I think it's been a one-way street up till now, but let me speak for a few minutes for you. I've done many podcasts. And like we were chatting before the podcast, that research is important. But I think Shalaj, right?
Shalaj, yeah.
Shalaj. I think Shalaj means सुलझा हुआ, right?
Lotus.
Shalaj means
Pankaj, Jalaj, Ambuj. ये मेरी हिंदी टीचर ने मुझे 0 दे दिया था. मैंने स्कूल में लिखा था, नहीं पर्यायवाची नहीं आते, मैंने अपना नाम लिख दिया. उन्होंने बोला नहीं, इसका ये मतलब नहीं.
Somehow Shalaj मेरे को सुलझा हुआ से बड़ा रिलेट करता है. बट ठीक है, लोटस इज ऑल्सो अ ब्यूटिफुल फ्लावर एंड काफ़ी सुलझा हुआ है, क्योंकि तो आप बड़े सुलझे हुए हो. एंड द वे यू ब्रॉट दिस एंटायर थिंग आउट इन अ पॉडकास्ट इज नॉट जस्ट टू have another podcast, but I think it's really to bring something to people which is a bit hidden. Sometimes मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ, आप मेरे से बात कर रहे हो, मेरे पीछे 1000 इमोशंस चल रही हैं, आपके पीछे 1000 इमोशंस चल रही हैं, पर हम उनको बांट नहीं रहे. I think with the help of this podcast, people will be able to see the second layer of life, not just the first layer. And I think you've really got some thought-provoking questions which I could answer, and that second layer and the third layer could be peeled off a bit, and then we can get a little deeper into things. So I think that's what you've done. So thank you.